Miami Dolphins fans, it looks like the 2023 Dolphins free agency is pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered, except for maybe a cherry or two coming up the next couple of days. But most of the work, most of the facelift that we intended to do to this roster with the free agency is now finished. We added David Long, Mike White, Jeff Wilson, Mostert, both those guys coming back. Duke Riley coming back. Eric Sauber, Garon Christian, Dan Feeney, Nick Needham, I like that. He's coming back. Myles Gaskin, I like that. He's coming back. And Deshaun Elliott. Overall, I am very, very happy. A lot of the things we needed to really address were addressed. I really like the direction, for the most part, of where this team's going. But I'd be remiss as an evaluator and dishonest to my projection of what it takes to win football games and to go far, as I've been talking about for 2 years, if I don't say I am still not satisfied. There is still clear areas that need to be addressed. But the great news is you got your second pick, and you're still going to get $13.6 million after June 1st. And there's lots of guys that get cut that can help your team dramatically throughout, leading into preseason, throughout preseason, heading into week 1. So there's a lot of ability and ammo to correct what needs to be corrected, and it needs to. But overall, fans, we've got to be extremely happy. And it's becoming clear what this team is. So I'm going to get into all that. I'm going to lay out basically the entire roster, where you're going to see some holes that need to be filled, and we got to keep our fingers crossed as to what we got to do, that we're going to do stuff there. And then I'm going to go through the free agents that we brought in, kind of give you my why and why fours, why I think it's a good job that was done, and also why some extra help needs to be addressed. So here we go. First big note of this season is finished. And guys, we're heading into a massive, big, exciting year. And it does look like it could be our time to at least make some noise in the postseason and hopefully, maybe, shake the heavens. Curtis saying thanks for stopping by. I appreciate everything you guys do. I want to give you a shout out. Shout out to A-Spread, my sponsor, because without you, without them, this show ain't going down. Ace-Per-Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, I got to start off with Jalen Ramsey. I'm hyped for him. Some people put some really good comments saying, hey, man, look at his man coverage. It was like 100 quarterback rating. And he's not what he used to be. Don't get too excited. Howard's, got his injury history and all that. And I get that. That's all fair evaluation. That's not hate. That's not negative. It's reality. But when you bring up a man coverage stat, you've also got to understand the enemy of man coverage is time in coverage. And pass rush reduces that time and elevates the play of somebody in man coverage. The Rams were 27th. This has got to be, when you bring up Ramsey's struggles in man coverage, look at this stat, then you've got to, in context, add the pressure. Now, I'm not saying the lack of pressure is all why Ramsey struggled in his man coverage. I got to go back and watch the film, but it clearly plays a major part. I mean, that's real. Now, I'm not saying that, if he had the pressure, he'd have been top 3, but he doesn't need to be top 3. There's a lot that goes into coverage. And Fangio with his mix-match zones, the ability for them to really not tell the quarterback exactly what they're doing right at the line of scrimmage is going to make things more difficult for the quarterback. And that's going to assist the secondary. It's going to assist the cover guys. And Jalen Ramsey is a smart guy. He's got loads of experience. He's still fast and he's still talented. And all this stuff, along with the pressure, playing opposite Howard, going to have Needham, you're going to have Kohu, you got Holland on the top. This is all going to assist Ramsey's to be the best he can be at this stage. And at this stage, he can still be a major factor. And I want you to see this little, I guess it's a tweet here that I saw from Matthew Judon. And I'm not going to repeat exactly what he's saying here. Keep this thing PG. But what he's saying is, holy cow, you got this talented guy in my division along with the rest of the talent on that squad. Whoa. And he's the real deal player. Judon's got a great name, and he's an excellent player. And he knows game when he sees it. And Ramsey still has it, and he's not going to blow smoke at somebody and look like a fool with a guy like Ramsey who has 6 Pro Bowls, okay? So he is an impactful player. He was had for less than a ham sandwich of a 3rd-round pick and Hunter Long. So this is great news however you slice it. There's no way you're going to take a 3rd-round pick and hunt the long and get the quality at coverage, the experience at coverage that you would get with Jalen Ramsey. It's a win, a big win. Does it mean he's Deion Sanders 2.0 and he's going to have 17 picks? No, but what we saw with his defense last year, he's going to bring a lot to the table. Now, Barry Jackson had a really great tweets, got the little bird up in the corner. I'm not too hip on this social media stuff. I'm trying to get into it because I know it's part of this game. So he said, should be great competition between 2 of the Dolphins' greatest undrafted success stories in many years, Kohou and Needham, for 3rd cornerback duties. Both have maximized their talents and both figure to play a lot in a pass-heavy league. I didn't really even think about that. I thought this was a really great tweet. It was very cogent, and it really sparked some imagination from me that how good, and both these guys were brought to us by Josh Boyer. Thank you, Mr. Boyer. And these guys both bring a little something different. I think Needham's a much better nickel guy, at least from what we've seen. I think he's a little more fast twitch. I'd like to see Kohou. I hope Kohou can really play that nickel. It'd be unbelievable. But if not, Kohou brings more physicality. I think he has a better opportunity and ability to play out on the boundary. We've got an excellent secondary, a deep secondary. Bethel's there. He's good too. We've got talent. We got Noah, who's going to finally pop, right, guys? So this is a wonderful situation. Bringing in Ramsey really helped this thing out. And bringing back Needham, who I like the kid. This was a great move on the cheap to really bolster this secondary. So I like the direction we're heading. And I wanted to hit on that. So I hit on Needham. I think excellent move. You brought in Ramsey, which is a phenomenal move. And then you got Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott is good. I had put out the layout of the lineup, and to me, I had put a red square around Brandon Jones. I like the kid a lot, especially in the 0. But when he's got to play cover 2 and he's got to mirror Holland, that ain't happening. He has a skill set, and right now his skill set is not playing at top of the coverage in zone. Elliott brings a lot to the table. He's not elite, but he is solid. He's good, and he can somewhat mirror Holland and help out Byron Jones and be a great depth and replace Rowe. This is an excellent signing. It's a 1-year deal, so if he plays really well, you can extend it a little bit. If not, you can go fish next year when you got more picks, and you can really reset the roster as you want. I thought this was a phenomenal move. I was waiting on it. I thought they were going to have to kind of spread out their needs a little too much. I like what Chris Grier did in a couple of ways where he put a little bit into the pot where he's not going to be forced to have to take a guy. Because if you don't have Elliott there, you're kind of looking like, I need a safety somehow. And do you really want to wait till after the draft? And you only got your 2nd-round pick. So I thought this was a really good move. And the running back group, I like Myles Gaskin. I think he's not being utilized properly. I think the guy's got talent. I'm not sure if he works in the zone stretch as much as the inside zone. I think he needs a little more help inside. But I do like what this guy can do as far as a 3rd down back with catching. I expect to see him do a little bit more than last year. I know he's probably going to end up being the 3rd or the 4th, but I like that signing too. Kind of says we're not going to get a guy running back in the draft. We're going to keep going with these smallish kind of guys. And we know what the look is going to be. Now, Duke Riley, I like him as a fourth guy probably. I think he can do everything kind of well, plays a little special teams. This was another good sign to bring him back on a cheap. Wilson and Mostert, they are what they are. Mostert runs hard. He's fast. He can beat. If that guy could stay healthy and you give him a substantial amount of carries, I like what he brings to the table. But we're just not sure if he can. He's a little bit older. But in this group, in this stable, he showed so much last year. He ran so hard. I'm happy for him to be back, and I'm glad for him to be a part of this stable. Now, Jeff Wilson, he got a pretty decent contract, a little bit more than Mostert. He's an above-average back if you give him space. If he's working behind the line of scrimmage, he just doesn't. He's not going to make a lot on his own, except when he gets to that second level. He runs hard, and he's able to break the tackles of safeties and corners, and juke some linebackers if he gets enough depth over the line of scrimmage. We don't always give him that space, but a good signing. It allows you again to spread that ball out. We saw that he can make hay when he gets it. Now, Mike White, I only wanted 2 quarterbacks. I wanted Skyler to be the backup, the primary backup. But I had said when they made these new rules for the concussion, it might alter the way teams design their roster, that third quarterback might become almost like a regular thing, because at any given moment, these guys can get pulled. We saw that last year. And so you could be down to your third quarterback, one injury this week, and then also the next guy gets injured next week, and you're down. So you really do need 3 quarterbacks. So I said I really just wanted Skyler to use that roster spot for someplace else. But now that I rethink it, I go back to my original desire, I think this is a very smart move. I wanted Mike White to get a flyer on him when we were drafting years ago when I said it in Phins News. I like this kid. He's not a starter. He's not going to beat out Tua. I think he can beat out Skyler, maybe not in the long run. But this guy brings experience. He's loved by his players. He's got leadership. He can lead a team. He was doing a pretty good job last year with those Jets. And so he's a quality backup, like him better than Teddy. So this is a really good job, a nice signing. He's pretty cheap. Then there's David Long. David Long is a very good signing, guys. He's a Landon Roberts amplified by like 2 levels. He could do everything that Roberts does inside. I love Roberts. Roberts' physicality. You guys going back and watching. I'm making a film right now for Phillips, getting all his near heartbeat away hits. And I just kept seeing Roberts with those big pops on the run game. Just can't cover too much, doesn't have much range. But David Long has everything that Roberts has, maybe not as much physicality, but he's got more range and he can cover better. This is an excellent signing. He can spread out the snaps with Baker and with Riley and Tyndale, and he's going to be a great mentor towards Tyndale. I really like this signing. I thought it was a real good signing for us. Now, on the back end, Dan Feeney, Garon Christian, Eric Saubert, I am a little bit sour on. Saubert, Fangio's got a relationship with. He can't really do much of anything. He's a vet, and he's a low-end vet. And, we've got Tana. I can't remember the guy's name. He's got a strange name. I can't remember which is the first one. First names. I don't know. And then we got Durham Smythe. None of these guys are excellent blockers at any level. They're not great in the pass game. Maybe Tana can do it. I don't know. But Saubert, he's a 4th. I still think that tight end is going to be where we shoot for in this draft. I think it's a very interesting thing, though, because it looks like the Patriots, maybe Jets or Bills are aiming for it too. And they've got some picks ahead of us and more picks than us. So I'll cover that another day. But I think tight end is where we're going with that second-round pick. Now, Garon Christian and Dan Feeney, these guys are substandard dudes you don't want to run the season with. They're not bringing any competition to Eichenberg or Jackson, and I don't like that. I'm not really excited about either of these guys. There's a lot better options out there. There was options to really push both Eichenberg and Jackson, and they haven't been hit on. Now, this is not to say we're not going to. Maybe with that second-round pick, the right guy falls and Chris Grier goes for him. Maybe in that preseason leading up into week 1, a good vet gets cut, or he makes a trade or something like that, and he gets somebody. We don't know, but I definitely think we need to make that happen, because everything on the roster was done so well. This roster is so fleshed out when you take a look at it, except for 2 positions. And you only got 1 second-round pick, so you're not going to be able to cover it all. So take a look at this. You see the box around Jones? Elliott takes care of that. Excellent job. Kohu, I wasn't sure if he could play nickel, but you got Needham. So that covers that. Excellent job. And then you got Howard with the injury issue. But if you got Needham, he could fill in for Kohu, and Kohu can fill in for Howard to give him breaks. Also, we play zone coverage, and zone coverage is a lot easier on the body than man. Man, you are in high explosion, pop and lock constantly, and that really taxes the body. When we had Howard, when he started off, we played a lot of cover 3. He was very successful at that. So this balance between man and zone is going to give his body a rest. We got bodies to replace him if something happens. Obviously not to the same level, but it can give him breaks. And this is just a really great situation the secondary is at. So I had to remove those. Everything else, it's got backups. It's got starters. This defense is looking excellent. And then you add Fangio to it. Now you look at the receiving group. You got Waddle and Hill, who are stars wrapped in stardom. Unbelievable talents. I mean, 2 of the most impactful receivers in the game. And you got Wilson, who has talent, who really underachieved last year. I'm not exactly certain why. I expect him to be better this year. And then you got Easy in the background. And I think we signed Swain. I might have missed Swain. We traded for Swain. So you've got the receiving group. It's fine. It's deep. It's fine. And then you got Tua, and you got White, and then you got a Skyler. So there's a quality grouping of depth there. And I didn't put the box around Tua. I could have for the injury history, because I just don't feel like dealing with it. All right, I'll worry about it. We all know, but we got to move on from that. And then there's the HB group. The only thing I don't like about the HB group, there's no guy with a lot of cement in his pants. Everybody's kind of, most of it runs like he's 240. So that's nice. But still, I would like to have seen one bigger style back. And maybe that happens at some point. But the group is deep and solid. And really, these guys are going to be made by the offensive line, how well they do. They can, Mostert and Wilson, and even Ahmed, their speed can amplify the offensive line at times in the zone stretch. But for the majority of the time, the offensive line is going to set the table. So, Armstead, one of the best linemen we've seen here in a long time. I could have put the orange thing around him like I did with Howard, but that's my man. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to jinx the situation. But we all know. And so we got to have some guy behind him. And then you got Eichenberg, who I could have put about 50 red squares around, but I didn't, because it would have messed up the whole image. But he is, I don't know, anybody who says he had a good season last year, we heard Grier said, a GM came up to him and said, Eichenberg's not in, he was playing really well for you. Either this guy was lying to Grier was hallucinating, or this guy was Eichenberg's agent, because Eichenberg was terrible. Sometimes he was passable when he was getting all kinds of help, and occasionally a block. But you're a second and third round pick in your second year. That is a terrible series of plays that he had throughout the entire season. This is a guy you cannot. I don't care who you are. As a Dolphins fan, you can't be that high on Phins to say that, we're set at left guard. Now, he could turn it around. His body could mature. He could be healthier. Maybe Smith is the guy to bring him up. All that stuff can happen. But can you really bank on Eichenberg? And then, really, you got Jones behind him, who I like a lot. I don't think he's great, but I think the guy can play. I just worry about him in the zone stretch. And so this left guard position, Dan Feeney, they got to add somebody. And then you got a Williams, but Feeney can play that position as well. So the one nice part about Feeney, he is an upgrade over Dita. Dita was terrible. So Feeney can play guard, he can play center, and that's a good part to it. But do you want him starting in a playoff game? So Connor Williams is a real good center. He's never going to guard, guys. He'll never play guard again. He's going to be center for the rest of his career. He excels, his skill set excels at center and gets a little diminished at guard because of his inability sometimes to deal with power. That's where he's going to play for us forever. And then he's probably going to play that way position for the rest of his career. It's a done deal. Done deal. He is much better at a center than guard. So we got him there, which is excellent. And then we got Hunt. Hunt had started out unbelievable and then had some bumps in the road. He's going into his final season, and he's going to get paid big at the end of the season. So I expect him in a contract year to have an unbelievable season. He's a good player, way better at guard than tackle, just a little too slow-footed at tackle, but he can play tackle. I mean, if you got Tehran opposite him and you can get some guy in there to fill it in case, it's fine as long as Tehran's there. But if Tehran's not there, it gets a little nerve-wracking. Sometimes he gets lost on switches and stunts, and he's a little slow-footed, like I said. So he is much better at guard. Him and Connor work really, really well together. But then we got Jackson. Jackson has never played well. He was injured most of last year. If he was so good, we would have put the fifth-year option on, but we didn't. So this is a big question mark. A big question mark. I think between him and Eichenberg, I have more faith in Jackson. To me, every year that passes, he's getting closer to physical maturity, and that plays a big part. This guy, as well as Eichenberg, are both very, very talented. But the problem is a little failure in the physicality, a little misstep here and there, a little lack of diagnosis goes a long way in the NFL. It's much different. The chasm between college and the NFL is huge. So whatever they can do to enhance their technique, enhance their physicality, and enhance their recognition will go a long way because they're going to be exposed bad as they have for the last couple of years until that happens. Now, maybe it happens this year, but I'm a little concerned about banking all that we've added, all that we're aiming for, all the possibilities on the table with these two guys. And having, who do we got? Feeney. Feeney and who's the other? Christian. So we need more help here. Hopefully Greer goes for and adds some more players. I would love to see Shell brought back. I think Shell would be a very nice upgrade, but I think we'd like to see more than that as well. Now, I got Smythe in the red square here because I've talked about how you got Tehran and he goes one-on-one and all the help flows. And then you could bring help to areas of need. Now, if you got Eichenberg and Jackson, that's too much help needed, and you can't do it. But let's say Eichenberg steps up or somebody steps in there and fills that out, and you just need to help out that tackle position. Then your secondary blockers are critical. And one of the biggest problems was Smythe was terrible in his blocking. One of the second worst, I think, tied for first in the league last year in his pass blocking. He wasn't so great at run blocking. You need a good tight end who can block, inline block, and go out for routes. And this is why Darnell Washington is my target. If Darnell Washington somehow finds his way to this team, you're going to see this whole team go to another, even with Eichenberg and Jackson. He's got the longest wingspan of anybody who's ever been measured at the tight end position. Second biggest hands, 6'6", 6'7", 264. He can inline block a little slow in his technique. His technique's a little bit off. He's just been so big. He's been able to dominate guys. But he can catch. You sort of one-handed catch. This guy on this team would make me high as a kite, and he would alter things. But if it's not him, we need to get a guy in there that can kind of inline block better and still be a guy that can go out for routes. Connor can't really do it. What's the other guy's name? Saubert, he can't do it. Smythe can almost. I wouldn't mind Smythe on the back end. But point of attack, no sirree. And we need to run this football. We need to run the football to bring balance, to take the pressure off, and to keep this defense on the sideline so it's fresh throughout the season. I'm expecting a tight end to be drafted. I just hope we don't grab the athletic guy that can't block again. Everybody pray for Darnell Washington to fall late into the second round and for Chris Greer to pull off the most stunning move and to get him or to move up to get him because, listen, guys, it would change everything. But overall, you can see this roster is really filled out. It's just these two areas that are an eyesore at the moment. Now, unless Eichenberg has an epiphany and Jackson has an epiphany, and maybe we get a tight end out there because there's some in the third and fourth round we could pick up, so maybe we could trade back and get some picks or something like that can kind of spell Darnell Washington. But we need to hit these areas. It's a long season. Guys go down. Do you want any of these guys to go down? I mean, aside from Eichenberg and Jackson, where Smythe goes down, where you at? If Armstead goes down or Hunt or Connor, changes the complexion of this thing. Tua needs to stay healthy. We need to run this football. So let's hope the draft is a good one. We get Darnell Washington, find a really good lineman that falls. Let's hope we find some vets that get shaken out from the roster and we bring them in because we just need a little bit at that guard and tackle spot to make this team a true beast. Going into New York, going into New England, going into Buffalo, we need to run this football among some other places. We don't know when we're playing the Chiefs. So, so let's just hope this thing gets filled out. But so far, so very good. So close, but so far, guys. Anyway, Curtis saying, I hope you're hyped. You should be. But be very hyped that we add a little bit more, guys. Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Phins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.